All right. Welcome. Switching it up a little bit today. Broadcasting from the living room in the morning, which actually feels pretty amazing. I'm going to move. No, I think this is all right. This is not too bad. And I got a microphone on today, so hopefully the sound is a little bit better. I'm a little bit sniffly, though, so I think that's going to come through in the mic. I feel fine. It's just normal seasonal allergies that I've been getting. And, yeah, I was always so embarrassed about it for a long time. Because I always thought that people were looking at me like I was sick. And then if they were looking at me like I was sick, then they would think that I was, like, weak. Weird. Anyways. So this is a regular satsang that I have been holding. My name is Josh Kane. And I'm a yoga teacher. I live in New Haven, Connecticut. And I started doing this about a month ago, once all of this craziness started taking place, where I knew that I needed to get connected to my spiritual life on a deeper level. I'm always pretty connected to my spiritual life, but the Bhagavad Gita is something that has helped me for many years to understand some deeper truths about yoga and about life and being human. And as an act of service during this time, both to the world and to myself, and to Krishna, I'm sharing these sessions on YouTube, and I started doing it on Instagram. I was doing it on Instagram Live, and then it got to a point where it felt good to my ego, but I wasn't archiving the footage properly, and whatchamacallit, something changed with Instagram, where now, for whatever reason, and I haven't checked it recently, but actually I can probably check it right now. The streaming changed so that I wasn't able to get on and just stream normally like I usually do. I'm not going to check it out, because I'm on with you, and I don't want to be distracted. So now that I'm not able to stream on Instagram, so at least as far as I know, doing it here is better, because then there's an archive, and it'll be kind of like a satsang slash video vlog, I guess, a spiritual vlog. But I'm not really like commenting on anything. It's just talking about the book and talking about yoga, talking about reading through passages and describing why they make sense, how it relates to our daily life, and hopefully what we can do to cultivate a little bit more inner peace. Got it. Okay. So Claudine's telling me that because I don't have 1,000 followers, I can't go live on Instagram. Well, oh well. There's something in the Vedanta system. It's called the Three Sobering Truths. And they are: no amount of wealth will ever fill the void in your soul. No person will ever fill the void in your soul. And no amount of followers or validation will ever fill the void in your soul. So what does this mean? It means that you could love a person and that person could leave you, or they could get sick and die. Or, you could get sick and you could have to leave them. That person is connected to something that's temporary. This life is temporary. You could get a lot of money. You could get a lot of fame. And that can all be taken away. That's all money that you gain is money that you can lose. all fame can turn into infamy overnight with one wrong decision. And then all of a sudden, where you would go from being high, so high, to so low. And this is why a lot of famous people and movie stars and whatever are so depressed. Because they go out into the world, they spend all this time up on stages, and they're in front of millions of people, and everybody loves them, and they're so successful, and they're so like, they're the center. And then they go home, or they go to their hotel room in most cases, or their tour bus, and they're sitting there, and they're not surrounded by family. They're surrounded by, their bandmates and their roadies, and and they're all of a sudden they're not that important anymore. So it goes from the really, really highs to really, really lows. And it's that thing where somebody can tell you that you're beautiful, somebody can tell you that you're smart, somebody can tell you that you're funny, somebody can tell you that you're amazing, and then you start to believe it because that person's telling it to you. And because there's people around you, or there's things around you that are like validating you and telling you that you're good enough. But then when those people aren't around, how do you really feel about yourself? That stuff can go away. It's unless you have something to ground into, something to anchor into, where you know that you're not just this body, right? The body, if you remove consciousness from the body dies. That's what death is. When consciousness leaves the body permanently, the body dies. So our body doesn't have a consciousness. It's run by consciousness. And our minds also as well, like the brain and the mind, two different things, by the way, but we're not our minds either. Our minds are connected to a story about our personality, which this personality and this body they're temporary for this life. Once this life ends, the soul migrates into another body, into another space, and becomes another thing. And what we're trying to do through studying the Gita and through studying sacred wisdom, through chanting, practicing yoga, learning about ourselves, learning about others, in a way that we learn our differences and our similarities. We learn our strengths and our weaknesses. We learn how to feed our bodies and our minds with the right thoughts, with the right content, and be surrounded by the right people who are encouraging us, reminding us that we have a responsibility in this life. That we're not just given this life as a gift to do whatever it is that we want with it. We have free will and we have choice. But as you see when you start to read this book, the way that you make choices and how you discern your choices should always be based on something that's real. And if you're caught up, which all of us are, you get caught up in what's called the modes of material nature, which are goodness, passion, and ignorance. And when you get caught up in the modes of material nature, when you're living based on the senses, based on sensory information, it's easy to get carried away into suffering about things that are temporary, that are not going to bring you lasting happiness, that aren't going to bring you lasting joy. Because if it's temporary, it can come and it can go. But what do we always have? We always have ourselves, and we always have within ourselves our soul, which that soul is part of a super soul, which is a greater oversoul, that is the energy of all souls. So the spark of each soul and the spark of each individual soul that gives us our personality and gives us our individuality, our uniqueness, is also connected to something that's greater. And then that greater overlord, that greater super soul, is then connected to Krishna, is then connected to the supreme Lord, the supreme personality of Godhead, which is everything, everywhere, eternally, forever. deathless, beginningless, and always, always, always in the process of creation, but separate from the process of creation. So the more you study this, the more it comes to make sense. All right, so let's get to it here. Out of compassion for them, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Haribol. Okay. So we will, oh my gosh, I'm so schnifty. We will chant. Sound better with the microphone? So I'm going to sing the Mangala Charana. And then we're going to move into the Maha Mantra, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Great, thank you. Jnana Timarannasya Yananjana Salakaya Chakshur Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Diyabandhu Jagadpate Gopesha Gopikanta Radhakanta Namaste Tata Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasavi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We'll close with the sound of Om. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Om. Very nice. Haribol, Haribol, Haribol. All right, before we dive into the Gita, before we get into devotional service, which is a short chapter, but within devotional service, we have some key points of knowledge. Key points of knowledge. But what I'm going to share with you now is the Mangalacharanam actually has a very beautiful meaning. And it was taught to me by my teacher in my yoga teacher training. And I didn't know that much about being a Vaishnava. I didn't know that much about being a bhakti yogi. I didn't really know anything about being a bhakti yogi until I took this training. And through the wisdom and the grace of my teacher, this knowledge was transmitted to me. And, it was transmitted to everyone. And it really affected me. And seeing the way that he lived his life, the way that he lives his life, and how unapologetically spiritual he is. I just felt so inspired, because I always felt like, well, here I am, this white guy, this younger, Western white dude who is like talking about spirituality, talking about divinity. I mean, that's weird. It's just not. I can't like come out and just be like this to people. People are gonna think that I'm crazy. I'm losing my mind, that I'm giving up on my roots, or that I'm just posing, that I'm just faking it. And seeing him and how he fully embraces his spiritual life, and he fully embraces his spiritual identity as his true identity, and then offers it as a service. I was like, wow, this guy doesn't apologize for who he is. He doesn't apologize for how he feels, and he doesn't hide it. He doesn't put it away. And I was doing that a lot. I was really like, I would go around people, and then I would put my spirituality away. I would put my spiritual self away, because it was like, oh, all right, well, I'm in a social setting, I'm in a personal setting, and this is like, I have to be a different person here. I can't just be my spiritual self. But that started to get very painful after a while. I didn't really realize it until, the more and more I stopped doing that, and just embrace myself as myself, and that, this is who I am. And this is something that, I care very much about, so much so that I've, modeled most of my life around living a spiritual life. Now, I'm not 100% a pious person. I'm not without fault or without error. I'm definitely not pure, because I am connected to things in the material world. I'm connected to my laptop. I'm connected to my, my harmonium. I'm connected to the comforts of my home, and the fact that I can click on my thermostat and have heat if I want it, that I can flip on my faucet and I can have water if I want it. I'm not out like living the monk's life. But I am devoted to something. And when I learned about, we were forced to meditate, we were required, I don't want to say we were forced, but we were required to memorize this Mangala Charanam, which was our opening prayer every day. From when we would wake up, at 4:30 a.m. We'd meet at the yoga studio at 5, and this is exactly how we would start. And we all learned it together, and then eventually we would sing other songs, we'd do kirtan, and then he would give us our morning satsang, where he would talk to us, just like I'm talking to you, about spirituality and spiritual life, and he would kind of give the lessons for that day that were going to come up through the teachings. And and so I've been singing this ever since. And the first verse, the definition of, I'll just read the English. So, I was born blind of my identity. I offer my respect to my teachers who have helped me open my eyes with the light of knowledge. See, that's why we always offer reverence to our teachers. That's why I started out by saying, this is not just, I wasn't just born like this. You know what I mean? I didn't just come into this world like this, like knowing all of these things. I had great teachers, I had great inspiration from others who had also done their work, and they had great teachers, and they had great teachers, and they had great teachers. So it's by the blessing of others that we come to really know ourselves. So we come to really see ourselves, not just as we want to see ourselves, but receiving how others see us is very important. It's very, very important. Opening my eyes with the light of knowledge, the light of knowing what is real and what is not, and what is the path and what is not. O Krishna, you are an ocean of mercy, dearest friend and father of the universe. You are friend of the cows and the cow herders and the lover of Radharani. So, Krishna, you are an ocean of mercy is that we can do no wrong in the eyes of Krishna. We can do no wrong in the eyes of God, in the eyes of divinity, in the heart of divinity. That first passage that I read, out of compassion for them, dwelling in their hearts, I offer them the light of knowledge. There's no wrong that we can do that's going to put us in a bad favor with divinity. We weren't created to feel bad about ourselves, to feel negative about ourselves. A lot of people take this as like law of attraction stuff, and they try to funnel it into like making money or getting a relationship or doing whatever. But it's deeper than that. It's so much deeper than that, because it takes us to the level of forgiving ourselves and knowing ourselves as part of a nature that is designed to create struggle. It's designed to create suffering, because the suffering and the struggle are part of the fuel that keep this universe going, that keep this cycle of birth and death. That continuous wheel keeps moving along. You drop down into struggle and then you rise back up, and you drop down into sickness and you rise back up into health. You take an inhale, the exhale drops and lets it back out. You take another inhale, the exhale drops and lets it back out. Right? It's the same deal. It's the same thing. Dearest friend means that he's personal. Krishna is in a personal form. It's not Brahman, right, or the super soul that is everywhere and nowhere. And we're going to learn more about this as the text goes on, but Krishna did a huge favor by coming as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by manifesting as Krishna, because what it gives us an opportunity to do is to have a friend, a personal friend that is not that's not some voice in the sky. It's not a burning bush. It's not a bolt of lightning, or like a tower of flames that, leads us through the desert. It's a person. It's a person that you can learn about his childhood, and you can learn about his pastimes, and you can learn about his friendships and how he lived his life, and how he teaches, and how he sustains, and how he maintains. And that's different. It gives you something, just like having the guru, just like having a teacher, a bona fide spiritual master. You're not just looking around at random stuff, looking up at the sky going, hey, send me a signal, God. Send me something that I can model myself after. Send me something that I can, help me download some information. It's like, no, you turn towards that personality. You turn towards that, and that is what you model yourself after. So does that take away your individuality? Does that take away your sense of self? Absolutely not, because you're still you and they're still them. And if they truly are a bona fide spiritual master, they want you to be you. They don't want you. They don't want to own you. They don't want to take you and make you just a product of themselves. But they are going to hold you accountable to understanding the difference between right and wrong, the difference between up and down, left and right, the difference between respect and dignity and debasement, defilement, impurity. Those things that's what you learn from a bona fide spiritual master, and how to understand the teachings, so that then you, in your personal way, through your dharma, can apply them. O Radha, you are the divine controller of Vrindavan. Vrindavan is Krishna's home. And Radha, or Radharani, is his wife, his divine counterpart, divine feminine, divine masculine. Your limbs are beautiful and golden. You are the divine daughter of King Vrishabhanu and are very dear to Lord Hari. So it acknowledges Krishna, it acknowledges Radha, it's acknowledging divine feminine, divine masculine, the two counterparts. And that we're all living with these two counterparts inside of us. We have a divine masculine energy, we have a divine feminine energy. And we're trying to learn how to merge those two together so that the outside can be like the inside and the inside can be like the outside. It makes more sense as time goes on. I offer my respect to all the devotees of the Lord on this path who are magical and can fulfill the desires of everyone, who are oceans of mercy and who reach out to the suffering souls of this world. O Lord, please engage me in your service. When you are devoted to this path, when you are devoted to something that's greater than yourself, you start to live a magical life. You start to live a life of providence and supreme circumstance, where you learn how to forgive, you learn how to trust, you learn how to surrender without losing your freedom and your autonomy. And then you ask from a true place of personal respect and power. It's not the power to dominate, but it's the power to choose. It's the power of presence. It's the power that comes when you acknowledge that you're part of something greater, and that greater thing has greater things in store for you, has a divine plan, has a divine knowing and a divine reason for everything. And we could try to conceive of it, we could try to qualify it, but it's so great that we'll never know the greatest great. It's so small, it's so refined, we'll never know the intricacies and the depth of that refinement. So what we do is we try to just land right in the middle and be steady where we're at. Come back to ourselves, recognize that through my soul, I'm connected to the super soul. And then through the super soul, I'm connected to all souls, which are all connected to divinity. And that divinity has a plan. I'm part of that. I'm not the owner of it. I'm not the decider of it. I'm just asking, please, Lord, now that I'm here and that I'm part of this plan, I'm part of this action of creation and destruction, help me do good in that. Help me be good in that. And how do we do good in that? How do we become good, become goodness and stay in the realm of goodness so that hopefully we can transcend and rise above our material cares and worries and concerns? We have to be of service. We have to be of service to others. We have to be sharing knowledge. We have to be working daily, not so that we can get the credit of the work that we do, but so that we can be in action through the days of our lives, giving and offering, creating that energetic cycle of life repeating itself. Some people do this in different ways. Some people do this just by meditating all day in a cave and they just try to keep their mind focused on divinity. Some people do it through karma yoga, where they're trying to constantly do good acts that make up for bad things that they've done in their life. And, they believe that doing good deeds and doing good deeds and doing good deeds is what puts you in good favor with the Lord. Then there are people that learn right knowledge and they learn what the difference is between real and unreal. And they study all the scriptures and they study all these different distinctions and languages and the different discernments and every bit of knowledge and wisdom that's handed down through the texts and the teachings. They're just dissecting that and trying to really, really know what is real and what is not. And then you come to Bhakti Yoga, which is devotional service, which in the Gita is famed to be the highest level that you can be at, which is creating music, creating song, doing art, sharing the teachings in a joyful, loving way, having a conscious relationship with divinity and a conscious relationship with others, because you start to see through Bhakti Yoga, all is connected, everything is divinity, and good or bad, it's all good. It's all here doing something for me. So when we chant, and we chant the Maha Mantra, or we chant Om, or when we put ourselves and we engage ourselves wholeheartedly into chanting, what we're doing is we're trying to check ourselves out of that ego mind, the false ego mind, where I'm no longer identifying with my body. I'm no longer identifying with my mind. I'm giving the body and the mind a specific task that is in devotion to asking for inspiration to be of service. And we're trying to fill our hearts and fill our souls and fill our minds, all of it, fill our whole being with this feeling of devotion. And it gets on repeat. And eventually what starts to happen is, if we're doing it in right service and in right action, we become so single-mindedly driven to be of service, to be on path and to be on point, that it starts to burn away these impurities that we have. It starts to burn away the feeling of separation from divinity, because we're never separate from divinity. We always have divinity within our hearts, and it always has compassion for us. So no matter how many times we might turn away from it and get lost in seeing a beautiful person and wanting that, or seeing a beautiful object and wanting to own that, and measuring ourselves by it, comparing ourselves to it, thinking that equates to my value, or that equates to my level of ability to be loved, or my worth. The chanting clears all that out. The chanting, it's a way, it's like going around and dusting your house and cleaning off everything. The more you chant, it's like the more you're cleaning your temple, the more you're purifying your vessel. through vibration. It's not an abstract thing. It's not just sitting and closing your eyes and having a little bit of movement and just waiting for something to happen. No, it's an embodied action. Chanting is an embodied action. It's a sacred action. But you also have to learn while you're chanting to disconnect from the performative aspect of it. It doesn't matter if you're a good singer. It doesn't matter if you have a great voice. It doesn't matter if you're hitting all the right notes, if the melody is right. What matters is the feeling that you hold in your heart and the connection that you place in your heart with divinity as you're chanting. And as time goes on, the more you chant, the more you start to burn away those impurities as well, of this idea of what are people going to think of my voice? How do I look while I'm chanting? Does this make sense to people? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? That stuff, unimportant. What matters is the feeling that you hold in your heart while you chant. So even if you're chanting and you hit wrong notes, even if you're chanting and you lose your breath, even if you're chanting and you start having these thoughts of not good enough or not doing it right, chant that away. Chant even harder. Force yourself through that, because you are not measured by this according to human standards. And once you get into chanting, you're chanting according to divine standards, and the divine knows what's going on within you, knows your intention, it knows your deepest heart, and that's what it's listening to. So we cleanse the heart, we cleanse the body through asana, we cleanse the mind through learning and listening and hearing from our spiritual masters and studying these things ourselves. And then we chant to embody that and offer the service and give it back and to say the name. It's just beautiful to say the name. Right? So with that being said, thanks for listening to my usual rant skis. And let's get into chapter 12, devotional service. Okay. This is so fun. It's so fun. Wow. I can't wait to look back on this in a few years and be like, wow, look at how that started. I feel like this is something, my best hope is that this is something that's really going to grow. And Claudine was saying, I love how you talked about having a little set set up. I want that. I want to be able to, like, once the world comes back, have people come on and be guests and talk about all these things and invite, have my guru come on and like talk about this and have other, devotees and students and share different insights and knowledge. It's just really, I don't know, it's such a beautiful way to live. All right. So chapter 12, devotional service, verse 1. Arjuna inquired, for those who are properly engaged in your devotional service and those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested, which is considered to be more perfect? So, Ransky. So what Arjuna is asking Krishna is he's asking to make a distinction. Because again, the Gita is really about choices. It's about making the choice to inquire and turn towards divinity to get your knowledge and your understanding from the source. How does that relate to us? So a lot of times, if we have a problem, if we have an issue, or we come up against a crossroads in our lives and we're faced with something, we turn to our parents, we turn to our friends, we might even turn to drugs or turn to alcohol or turn to the media. And they're going to give a specific type of information that's going to lead you towards what is their version of right and wrong based on their experience or their conditioning. And what the Gita is encouraging us to do is to turn within and look within our own hearts and try to find the voice of God that's within us and to follow that and to ask that place, to ask that voice and that energy within. What is right and what is wrong? What am I meant to do here and how am I meant to do it? How do I sit? How do I stand? How do I walk? How do I talk? How do I engage? How do I know the difference between one thing and another? And because we have been so over-conditioned and overstimulated and we're educated to not do this, I believe that Krishna in the Supreme Personality of Godhead manifested in personal form to give this knowledge so that it would last throughout the ages, through these epics where we would become so ignorant, and we would become so disconnected, and we would really lose some of our higher, more refined, energetic senses. Like the five senses of the body are the lowest form of the senses. In the Vedas, they talk about so many spiritual senses and then once you get into the senses of like the super soul, that the super soul has its own senses, but they're detached from our material senses, so they're transcendental. They're something that like they're qualities that can't be described. So they're still living according to a nature. It's just a nature that's so supreme to our own that really it's just different. Right? It's the same, but it's different. So of those who are properly engaged in your devotional service and those who worship the impersonal Brahman, so this is saying the people who worship the voice in the sky, the unknown, the impersonal, and those who worship you and your personal form, which is considered to be more perfect. Verse 2. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "He whose mind is fixed on my personal form, always engaged in worshiping me with great and transcendental faith, is considered by me to be most perfect. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, fixed and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses, Ashtanga Yoga, being equally disposed everywhere. Such persons, engaged in the welfare of all, at last achieve me. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that unmanifested discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied." So there's the distinction. To make progress in the unmanifested is difficult when you're embodied, because what are you relating to? Having a personality is part of being a human. So when you're trying to relate your divinity to something that has no personality, it has no structure, you're always going to fall short on some level. You're always going to be searching for something that can't be defined. Therefore, your search will never end. And then it becomes very troublesome. So you reach, even if you're searching for the unmanifested, you'll reach Krishna eventually. You'll reach the Supreme Personality eventually. You're just going to have to struggle with it a lot more than if you just accept, hey, I've already got this thing here. I've already got this entity, this being, this Supreme Personality here that I can connect to, that I can relate to. I don't have to use my own imagination to conceive of something anymore. Because look at how closely that is tied to false ego. When I'm creating my own conception, my own perception, my own image of divinity, it's too closely tied to who I am and to my material experiences and my material conditioning. It can't be trusted. Not in the way that this can be trusted. Doesn't mean that you won't get there. Doesn't mean that you're in wrong action. It's just there's a distinction that's being made between which is more perfect and in a way which is easier. Verse 6. For one who worships me, giving up all his activities unto me and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service and always meditating upon me, who has fixed his mind upon me, O son of Pritha, for him I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always without a doubt. My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulated principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, you will develop a desire to attain me. If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. If, however, you are unable to work in Krishna consciousness, then try to act giving up all the results of your work and be self-situated. If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation. And better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of actions. For by such renunciation, one may have peace of mind. One who is not envious, but is a kindly friend to all creatures. One who does not think themselves a proprietor. One who is free from false ego, and equal both in happiness and in distress. Who is always satisfied and engaged in devotional service with determination, and whose mind and intelligence are fixed upon me. They are very dear to me. Those for whom no one is put into difficulty and who are not disturbed by anxiety, who are steady in happiness and distress, are very dear to me. A devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some results, is very dear to me. One who does not grasp either pleasure or grief, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things, is very dear to me. One who is equal to friends and enemies. One who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contamination, always silent, and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge and engaged in devotional service, is very dear to me. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, is very, very dear to me. That's the end of the chapter. That is a big, big, big chapter. Even though it's just a few verses, 20 verses. What you're getting in here, you're getting the Lord saying, this is what I prefer. This is what I'm looking for. And it's not even that he's looking for it. He already knows that it's there. What he's waiting for is for you to know that it's there. For you to know the difference. To stop measuring yourself by material things. To stop measuring yourself and valuing yourself based on something that has no real eternal worth. One who does not grasp either pleasure or grief, who neither laments nor desires. There's the person who doesn't see the conditions of material reality outside themselves and inside themselves as more important than keeping their attention on divinity is the person who is in devotional service. Because that's the greatest devotional service that you can give to the Lord, is to keep yourself fixed. Keep in your mind and your heart fixed at all times, rooted at all times, in the fact that this is happening for a reason. And it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. And divinity is acting through me, on my behalf, through all of these modes of material nature. Everything is divinity. Everything is divine. Everything is perfect. And I celebrate all of it. It's difficult at times, but I don't get lost in that difficulty because I know the difficulty is going to shift and it's going to become easier. And then once it becomes easier, it's going to get a little bit harder. And then once it gets a little bit harder, it's going to flow back and it's going to get a little bit easier. The sun's going to rise and the sun's going to set, right? All these distinctions, right? And with devotional service, with determination, because it takes a strong focus, it takes a very, very strong sense of self and sense of faith to be able to say, all right, you're leaving me. We've been married for 25 years. Okay, that's the will of God. Oh my gosh, a tree fell on my car today and I have no car and I don't know what I'm going to do about that. Okay, thanks God. Teaching me what I need to know right now. Oh my gosh, I woke up this morning and my arm doesn't work. I had that happen a couple months ago. I herniated a disc in my neck. I woke up. I was in a severe amount of pain. I'm sitting there, I'm feeling like, oh my God, this is awful. This is awful. I hope this doesn't last forever. I hope I don't end up staying like this. I don't want to live my life in so much pain. I don't want to. And then boom, I had to check myself back in and say, hold on 1 second. What you're feeling is temporary. This is a sensation that you're experiencing in your body that you're perceiving as something which is temporary. This will change. What it will change into is yet to be discovered. But what I have to remember is this is teaching me something. This is happening for me, not to me. I'm not a victim of this circumstance. I'm still here. I'm still embodied. I'm still a child of God. I'm still devoted to what I believe. I can't just all of a sudden turn around and say, oh, well, my neck got hurt and I didn't want my neck to be hurt. I'm in all this pain. I don't want to be in this pain. If God's in control of everything and God has a master plan and God loves me, why would I be in pain right now? Why would this happen to me? If things were really, if all nature was truly good, I shouldn't have to feel this pain. I shouldn't have to suffer like this. Why? What makes you so special? And also, if that's what you believe, you don't have to suffer like that. You don't have to suffer over it, because the suffering comes from believing that it shouldn't have happened. This is something that studying A Course in Miracles really helped to tie some of this stuff in for me, because I think without that, I wouldn't have really seen the distinction between attack and defense and how closely that relates to the ego and the false sense of self, this false personality that we have, where we think that we're good when we feel good. We're not good when we don't feel good. But if everything is happening as part of a divine plan, it's not necessarily about how we feel at all times. It's about the choice that we make with determination, who is not dependent on an ordinary course of activities, that we stay focused on the fact that everything changes in this reality. And what's happening to me, good or bad, is good because it's real. It's what's happening. If it wasn't meant to happen, it wouldn't have happened. And it's not some plan against me. It's not some plot to try to teach me my lessons. It's not a thing that's happening to teach me that, my neck got hurt because I'm secretly a bad person and I've been doing horrible things my whole life. And now here you go, boom. Here's a generous dose of karma to just put you in pain so that you learn your lesson of how bad of a person you are. No, divinity doesn't work like that. Do I have material habits and material, actions that I've done in a repetitive nature that have worn down my body and worn down the disc and, too many headstands, too much headbanging when I was a kid, playing crazy metal drumming, you know what I mean? Too much bad posture, too much driving. It's not that it comes from nowhere. Like, I definitely made choices, but I made choices that created the circumstance for this physical material condition to take place. However, if I'm measuring my worth based on the sensation that I'm feeling from that, as though I'm now a bad person because I'm experiencing a sensation of pain, that is suffering. I don't have to suffer over my pain. I don't have to suffer over the things that happen in this world, because I can stay disciplined and stay connected to the fact that if it's real and it's happening, it's supposed to happen. That it's happening for a good reason. It's all part of a plan. I might not have been checked in with that plan in the past, but if I can check in with that plan now, it helps alleviate a ton of my suffering. That's cool. That's a cool thing. And it creates a different kind of freedom, a different kind of moksha or liberation. Because when we're searching for liberation, we're not searching for like the astral body. We're not searching to be just, manifest ourselves and unmanifest ourselves and be able to choose the time of death and turn ourselves into some kind of a rainbow or have ESP. We're not trying to some people are. Some people are doing that. Some people, they're asking for things that they think that they want. Instead of saying, help me be happy with what I've got. And then help me use it to serve what is. Instead of being inspired to rely on a false personality that then tries to remake reality in my own image. That is unhealthy. And it leads to way more suffering because you're trying to create a false plan, a false narrative that's only based on your ideals and what you think that you want for yourself and what you believe is best for everyone and everything, which is really just good for you. On top of this eternal, ever-present, ever-running plan, this divine plan of reality, the divine cycle of birth and death that works according to divine principles and divine precepts. And it will always squash your vision. And if you end up getting something from what it is that you have created in your mind, it's not really yours because that didn't come from you. You didn't manifest that. That was manifested for you to enjoy. And you're not really the enjoyer. Divinity is really the enjoyer. It's weird, I know. It's the complete opposite of what we're taught. If you do good things, you're a good person. And in one sense, that's true. That is true. If you do good things, you're a good person. If you do bad things, you're considered a bad person. But it's not the whole truth. Because you can be a good person with bad intentions, with wrong thoughts, with wrong action. You can still be in the mode of goodness. You could be a really bad person. You could be a horrible person, but if you have God in your mind, you have God in your heart, then you can be forgiven for that. You can transcend that. Because divinity sees all as equal, right? So one who is equal to friends and enemies. Verse 18 and 19. It's not that your friends and your enemies all see you as the same, that they all see you equally. No, because then you wouldn't have friends or enemies in the first place. It's that the external circumstance of friendship and enemy, friend and enemy, you no longer distinguish between them as being different. Not that they distinguish as you, being that now all of a sudden they're equal to you. No, they're still enemies to you and they're still friends to you, but you just see them as the same now. They're still going to talk smack about you if they're your enemy. They're still going to wish you bad. They're still going to be doing their own thing and have their own negative perception of you. And your friends are still going to love you. They're still going to want the best for you. They're still going to be there for you, supporting you, like taking care of you. But, and this is we're coming up on the end of this here. But you start to see that, you see them as equal, where you say, okay, you think this way about me? Okay, that'll change. You're my enemy now. You might turn into this might be a lesson for you where I need to be your enemy so that you can have one person in your life that is not your enemy. You might be making enemies with everyone, but I'll be that one person that's fixed in transcendental knowledge, that does not accept your limitation of friend or enemy. And therefore, once you are able to come to this realization, once you're able to conceive of this, you're going to see that this was the personal example that I had, was this person who never looked at me as an enemy, even though I always treated them like an enemy. This person never lashed out at me. They never took it out on me. They never spited me or wronged me or talked smack about me. Wow. Thank God for that person. And then boom, mind blown. But if I don't have something to model myself after, I'm not going to be able to be that for somebody else. And that's what we're trying to do here as devotees. Being in service to divinity, not seeing these same distinctions that are defined by society and our material world, we are constantly leaving space for people to realize this who have not yet. And that is very, very, very dear to divinity. It's very dear to Krishna. That's a beautiful thing. It takes a lot of work, takes a lot of practice, and we need a lot of support, again, from our teachers, from our family, from our, if not from our immediate family, then from our spiritual family. And if not from our close friends, then from our spiritual friends. But there's always a lesson, there's always a teaching that can be harvested from any experience if you are always in the mindset, you're disciplining yourself to stay fixed in faith and firm without doubt, without the shadow of a doubt. Whatever happens from this moment on is good. Whatever happens is supposed to happen because it's happening. If it wasn't meant to happen, it wouldn't. Because the root of all things, the origin and the return of all things that go out through this big infinite cycle and then circle back to the source, because that source is goodness and purity and love and a desire for things to continue, a desire for things to sustain, then I can trust it. I can trust the flow of life. I can live from my heart. I can act from my heart in faith that even though some people might look at that as a mistake, some people might look at me right now and be like, wow, Josh has really changed. I used to know this guy when he was a kid. All he cared about was playing drums, and he was just this certain type of person. He was just like a normal guy. What happened to him? Talking about Krishna? What did he change his faith? He's gonna change his name now? He's gonna already did that, but and it's that idea of what are they thinking of me? Am I doing it right? Is this okay? Yeah, it's fine. I can allow my mind to get caught up in that, but it's a temporary circumstance that is, and if it's happening, great. I'm glad. Think whatever you're thinking right now is exactly what you need to think. Whatever you're doing right now is exactly what you need to do. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it. This virus, this system that is imposing itself upon us is necessary. It's helping to reveal truth. And that's what we should always be asking for. We're asking for the revelation of truth and true knowledge, true divinity, come into our hearts and help us to know the difference between right and wrong and how to stay devoted to the pursuit of that truth always in everything that we do. To speak from our hearts, to think with our hearts, to act from our hearts, and know that everything is going to be fine. This divine plan, this divine order, it will not steer us wrong. It will not let us down. We can trust it. It's okay. And know that you've been hurt in the past. And know that you have experienced situations that have convinced you that there's evil in the world. Might even have convinced you that there's evil within yourself. But you are not a broken person. You're not an unlovable person. And you're not beyond repair. Right? If you turn to your heart, you turn to eternal knowledge, you turn to faith, you turn to devotion, you turn to joy, turn to your heart's joy, you express it in some creative way, right then and there, you're going to start to feel divinity smiling upon you. You're going to feel that angel on your shoulder that you were waiting for that tells you, I am a good person. I do have value. I do have meaning. I do have worth. And it's not measured by these people that are doubting me. It's not measured by the people that think less of me. It's not measured by people, period. People don't measure me. People don't qualify or define me because people didn't create me. Divinity created me. So divinity is the one that measured my worth. Divinity is the one that gave me my gifts. And I'm here in faithful, devoted service to block out that other crap and stay focused on what is true. So with that being said, I hope that you take that throughout your day. I hope you take it throughout your week. And I hope that you will come back and continue to share this time with me and with all of us. And so I say to you, with folded hands, I offer you my obeisances. Krishna, divinity, supreme personality, thank you for giving me something to model myself by. Thank you to the practice of yoga. Thank you to this body for being the vehicle with which I can perceive and achieve all of these things. And may I send it right back to divinity and say, thank you so much. You're awesome. Thank you to all of our teachers. And thank you to this eternal practice of the spiritual science of yoga. Thank you all for sharing your practice with me today. Thank you for letting me serve you. Aho. Namaste. Word up. See you soon. Peace.